Coming up on Operation Outreach, the Navy League of the United States Central Florida Council continues to fulfill its mandate to educate, advocate, and support. This civilian organization is not only dedicated to providing support for Central Florida men and women of the sea services and their families, but it is also committed to the education of our children and adult citizens. We'll learn all about their key initiatives and meet the Sea Cadet who will share how the work of the Central Florida Navy League has impacted the Sea Cadets. Welcome to Operation Outreach, a new program to highlight the services available to military veterans right here in Central Florida. I'm Fred Robinson, Chair of the Orange County Mayor's Veterans Advisory Council. Today, we'll learn about the Navy League of the United States and the work they are doing here in Central Florida. I'm joined by retired Navy Captain Tim Hill, the President of Central Florida Navy League. Thank you for joining me, Tim.
Thanks for having me, Fred. Always happy to talk about the Navy League.
All right. Tim, I have a question for you. How long were you in the Navy?
So I was almost 34 years in the Navy, Fred, counting my time at the Naval Academy.
And what was your MOS?
So I was a backseater, a naval flight officer in F-18s.
And what is the purpose of the Navy League in Central Florida?
So, Fred, the Navy League is a national, in fact, worldwide organization. It was started back in the early 1900s with the support of President Teddy Roosevelt. And really the outreach, or the objectives of the Navy League are threefold, to educate, advocate, and support all things about the sea services, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, and the Merchant Marines. And we extend that here in Central Florida, especially important here where we don't have a large Navy presence.
Is that the reason that it's so important to do it here in Central Florida?
Yeah, I think we have a large veteran population and a rich history of Navy support, going back into the 60s when the Navy had a large base. In fact, many recruits came through Naval Support Activity Orlando back in the day to become Navy sailors and such. But now today, what most people don't know is there's still a presence here in Central Florida with Naval Support Activity and the Naval Air Warfare Center Training Systems Division, where almost all the training for all the services around the world comes here from Central Florida. So it's important we support that.
Can you tell me some of the activities that the Navy League has?
Yeah, absolutely. So our events throughout the year, our probably the biggest one is an every other month social that we do after the Navy has their acquisition forecast. And that really brings a lot of industry partners out to join together and learn about what the Navy's doing here, what the requirements are for the acquisition programs and how they can support those. In addition, we support the Sea Cadets, we support the junior ROTC and the high schools, and those are youth programs that are working on the seed corn for tomorrow's leadership and such. That includes STEM camps that we do in the summer as well. And then we'll run social and physical challenge events, things like a 5K, 10K run race, a Murph CrossFit challenge, and a pickleball tournament, all to generate revenue so that we can support those lines of effort that I mentioned.
And as far as the youth, what do you do to empower the youth in the area?
So the Sea Cadet program is sort of like the junior ROTC program, if folks are familiar with that. The young kids in high school that kind of work their way into knowledge and potentially going into the military from high school. The Sea Cadets is a Navy League sponsored program outside of the federal budget that kind of augments that in locations where they don't have a junior ROTC unit, and it starts in middle school. And so we'll get some participants as early as middle school that go all the way through high school, and in some cases they come back and they're adult volunteers as well. So again, trying to teach them about the sea services, teach them about opportunities in the military, but more importantly, just educating them on how to be a good citizen in the United States.
Very important now.
Absolutely.
It's very much needed as well. Does the Navy League do anything to help veterans and their families in need?
So generally speaking, we'll refer to other organizations that are specializing for those family needs and such. But a lot of it is just the camaraderie that we bring together from those in the sea services by pulling them together in that shared experience, whether it was a former service member that's part of that, former family member, or in some cases, kids that grew up in the Navy and are now adults doing their own thing in their own job, and they want to give back and be a part of the Navy family still. We kind of create that Navy family here in Central Florida.
And can you tell me a little bit about a research park with the Navy?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Central Florida Research Park, most people, or a lot of people don't know it exists. It's just south of the main campus of UCF on the east side of town, still in Orange County. And it's the sixth largest research park in the country. And so it was started back in the late 80s as an idea to start incubating companies and kind of bring things together. And the Navy was the first tenant in the research park, moving over from the old base at Baldwin Park, which is obviously now not a military base, but had a long history as such. And what has happened there is all the services now have a presence around their training and simulation kind of thing. So the devices, the flight simulators, the submarine simulators, the firefighting trainers, all those things are either acquired from here in Central Florida, or in some cases made here in Central Florida and then deployed around the world to do that training that our joint forces need.
So there is a collaboration between the different branches.
Absolutely. Everything there is, we like to say it's joint for all the right reasons.
Absolutely.
And the part that most people don't understand is there's north of $6 billion of contracts that come through the research park every year. And that has built this big industry that people call us the epicenter of modeling and simulation and training here in Central Florida.
And were you ever in command at Research Park? You want to tell me a little about that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know the answer to that one. So my active duty Navy career is what brought me here to Central Florida back in 2016. I came in as the executive officer of both Naval Support Activity, the base there in Research Park, as well as the Naval Air Warfare Center Training Systems Division, which is the acquisition arm, the arm that does all the training for the Navy. And I spent about 2.5 years in that position, and then fleeted up, as we call it, to become the commanding officer. And I had that job for about 2.5 years. That led me to my retirement date in July of 2021. And then we love Central Florida so much, we decided to stay, and we continue to be active in the community as a result of that.
Well, Captain Hill, thank you so much for letting me interview you. And thank you for your service to our nation and continuing to serve our nation. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Fred.
You're welcome. It is good to know that there are organizations like the Central Florida Navy League that are committed to uplifting the morale of sea service members and their families. The Central Florida Navy League also is making a difference in the lives of the youth through education. Supporting Sea Cadets is one of the many initiatives to educate the youth in Central Florida about the Sea Service's mission. When we come back, we'll hear from Sea Cadet about how the support from the Navy League is benefiting young people in Central Florida and how being a Sea Cadet has impacted him as an individual. Welcome back. Education is a major focus of the Central Florida Navy League. An interesting fact is that the Central Florida Navy League supports a total of 23 Sea Cadet and Navy Junior ROTC units, which is more than any other council. I'm joined by Evan Richmond, who is currently a midshipman with the Sea Cadets and previously a Sea Cadet. Welcome, Evan.
Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm good.
What drew you to the Sea Cadets and why did you want to join?
So at first, it was an opportunity to get into the military. I joined straight out of middle school, going into high school, going into my freshman year. My parents signed me up for it, got the feel for it, and ended up tending to be in love with it. And now I've been with the program almost for 7 years. I worked all my way up through the ranks, made chief, and then I loved it so much that I came back as an adult volunteer as a midshipman for the program.
So your parents were the ones who introduced you to it?
Yes, they were.
Okay. So what are you doing now?
So I recently finished EMT school, going on to Fire Academy to pursue EMT fire paramedic. After I get that done, doing my degrees and possibly joining the Navy commissioning afterward.
So you want to be an officer?
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. So you're in college at this particular
Yes,
time?
I am.
And how long have you been in college?
Going on my sophomore year of college now.
What sort of things did you learn being a Sea Cadet?
One thing that he preached upon us was the Navy Core values: honor, courage, commitment. Those go a long way in life, and just the program, it's military oriented, but you're not forced to go into the military afterward. It's a great foundation and a set for life, just for the foundation of everything. Just to be a better person, be a service to your community in general.
Has that benefited you?
Yes, it has.
Have you been inspirational to other young men and women that you know?
Yes, I have. Even in the program, people look up to me. I now volunteer my time as a medical officer, sharing my medical experience, volunteering at trainings for the safety and wellness of others at trainings and within my unit.
And what's your aspirations if you do go in the military?
It was going to do flight and aviation, but recently learned that height's a little bit of a limit on that. Being 6'6" is kind of restrictions on that. So probably going to go to the medical side of some sort.
And how has being a Sea Cadet given you leverage now on what you want to do?
Well, it's given me, especially on resumes a lot, it gives you a step up on a resume. It gives you that leadership experience, especially being a chief, making my way all the way through the ranks, staying committed to a program 4, 5, and 6 years, and going on to come back after I've already graduated out. Definitely gives you that sense of commitment and a just drive for more.
And how many years can you be a Sea Cadet?
So you can be a Sea Cadet up until you're 18 and you graduate high school. So you can be 18 and not graduate high school and still be in the program, but the moment you're 18 and have graduated high school, you therefore age out of the program.
And then what's the next step?
So you can either join the services, what some of us do, some of my friends have enlisted in the Marine Corps and Navy, or you can come back and spend your time as an adult volunteer as a midshipman until you age up to 21, then you can rank through ensign, lieutenant junior grade, and so on.
So that would be the midshipman.
Yes.
Okay. And your involvement with the Sea Cadets, have you recruited other young men and ladies?
I have some younger men from my school, my public school and private school, and other people just asking about it and referring them to the program, and then somehow they end up joining and they end up falling in love with the program just like I did.
And why have you continued to stay committed to
Because
the Sea Cadets?
I've noticed the opportunity it gives a lot of people, and I love to help, and this gives me an opportunity to help and give back into something I put my time into, something I went through. Now I can see things that needed to be changed and needed to be helped. I can help on that end from the adult and volunteer side, because the program is run by the cadets, but it's also very much assisted by the volunteers. We wouldn't be able to do anything without the volunteers.
Well, being there 7 years and being a chief, did you say you were a chief?
Yes, I'm a chief. Mm-hmm.
What leadership skills did you develop?
Definitely to lead by example, for sure, was one of them. And even though you always, especially for me, I love to get my hands and stuff and help, making chief kind of forced me into a position to have to delegate and to lead by either telling or by example instead of doing it yourself. So.
And what was your biggest leadership challenge?
I'd definitely say my biggest leadership challenge was probably staffing or recruit training, because to make chief, you have to staff a recruit training or a league orientation, which is league orientation is for the middle schoolers, not yet in high school, for the younger kids. Definitely having to lead one of those and manage everybody under you was definitely one of the hardest.
Has your has your integrity ever been challenged?
I wouldn't say it's been challenged. It's a test on it for sure. I wouldn't say a challenge, yeah, but it's definitely a test. It's really hard, yeah.
Could you give me an example of it?
Just with situations, say cadets having involvement with one each other or problems with each other, you may not want to report something because it could get blown out of proportions, or you don't want to do it because it's a sensitive situation. So just having the discretion to know where to use it is definitely tough.
Well, that's great leadership qualities that they've taught you. Mm-hmm. And what would you tell right now any young man or woman who are considering becoming a Sea Cadet?
I would say people may be scared because it's a military-oriented program, but you're not forced to go into the military afterwards. It's a great foundation for the foundations of life, for any job. You can use the things you learn there anywhere, whether you go through the medical side like I did. I ran corpsman. I was medical for my entire program. Some people did MA, security, and they work at police departments now, or you can do cybersecurity or CPERCH with robotics. There's a lot of different options you can use that will not align you generally with the military.
Okay. Well, Evan, I want to thank you so much for letting me interview you today. Mm-hmm. And if you had any last words to say, what would they be?
Try it out, join a program. It's not for everybody, but if you do stick through it, it's definitely worth the time.
Well, thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
As you just heard, the Central Florida Navy League is making a huge impact on the youth through its support of the Sea Cadets. Their contribution through unit adoption youth programs, and scholarships go a long way in meeting the needs of young people. Events are crucial to the work of the Navy League. Along the corporate sponsorships, the organization relies on money raised at its events to fund its many initiatives. When we return, we'll be joined again by Tim Hill, the president of the Central Florida Navy League, who will tell us more about their annual events. Welcome back. The Central Florida Navy League hosts various events throughout the year. To tell us more about the events, we will welcome back Tim Hill, president of Central Florida Navy League. Welcome back, Tim.
Thanks, Fred, and thanks again for having me here today.
Can you tell me about some of the events the Navy League has throughout the year, Central Florida?
Absolutely. And first of all, all these events tie back to our three imperatives: to educate, advocate, and support for the sea services. And I want to also make sure that everybody, all of our viewers and listeners, understand that all these events are open to the public. We absolutely want more folks to get engaged and support what we're doing and get behind the movement. We do a bunch of events throughout the year. Chronologically, I'll kind of give it to you that we start with our socials every other month that are generally held over near the Research Park in the main campus area by UCF, because really those are a part of supporting the Navy activities that are ongoing over at the Research Park as it relates to acquisition of training and training systems for the military. And I should say Navy and Marine Corps activities that are going over their sea services. Next, we have some, kind of competitive events, physical events, challenges, if you will. We have generally in the spring a 5K, 10K run that takes place in Baldwin Park at the Lone Sailor Memorial, which is the site of the Grinder from the old base. So the Grinder was the place where all the young recruits would do their physical training and practice marching over there. And so we pay homage to that history by starting and finishing the race right there in the shadow of our memorial that we put in place at Baldwin Park. So that's a popular event that brings out somewhere between 300 and 500 folks every year to compete, have fun, do something good for your body, and raise some funds to support our organization and such. This year in the May timeframe, right around Memorial Day, we launched our initial CrossFit challenge. We did the Murph exercise, which is named after Lieutenant Mike Murphy, a Medal of Honor awardee that died trying to get a rescue for his team. If folks have seen the movie Lone Survivor, they know Murph's story, where he went out on the cliff and exposed himself to hostile fire to get a good satellite signal to try to call in a rescue mission for his SEAL team that had been overrun and ambushed. That event is phenomenally hard, but there's ways to modify it and do it and still have a way to remember Mike and all the others that have given their lives out there. So it's 100 pull-ups, followed by 200 push-ups, followed by a 1.5 mile run out there on the front end and the back end of it as well. And so that there's a pretty big challenge there, but if you can't do pull-ups, there's a way to modify it. If you can't run, you can walk, so there's a lot of ways to get out there and do it, to include doing it as a team. This was our first one, and it was very successful and very emotional, as you might imagine. We'll also have in August, we go indoors and do a pickleball tournament. This will be our second iteration of that, and have typically somewhere between 40 and 50 teams out there in mixed doubles. Yeah, absolutely. Competing in pickleball. And the Murph and the pickleball were specifically aimed to get additional demographics, not just the kind of 40s and 50s folks from the industry involved, but also younger folks and older folks that maybe don't have a Navy background, a military background at all. And it's been successful. And then the final events of the year are really centered around the Navy birthday in October, where we have a golf tournament on Friday, and then followed by the Saturday after that the Navy birthday ball. And I know you've been with us on several of those because you're really good about helping to bring out some of our older veterans to get them there and bring them out to the Navy family and celebrate with us. And so those are our events throughout the course of the year.
And what do you do with the funds that you collect from these different events?
So, back to educate, advocate, and support. The funds are really mostly for our Educate line of effort, a little bit on others, but we'll host those socials that I mentioned before with those funds. We support our scholarship program that we give to Sea Cadets and junior ROTC students that are in need and have demonstrated good academic performance so they can go off and do their next phase of education. And then we'll support other veterans charities such as Wake for Warriors and Camaraderie Foundation in the past, and stuff that provides services to the military community.
Well, I appreciate all you do as well, because I've been coming to the Navy Ball since 2012, and you guys comp the World War II veterans and their escorts, and it's just amazing because they live for it.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of people don't realize it, but it means so much to them, and if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be who we are. They opened the doors for us. So Tim, I really thank you for letting me interview you again today and letting us know everything about the Navy League in Central Florida and what you provide for veterans and their families.
Hey Fred, thanks again for having me and letting me talk a little bit about the Navy League and ideally get some more folks involved here in Central Florida.
There are many ways to get involved in the Central Florida Navy League, and you need not have served in the military to become a member. If you'd like more information on anything we discussed today, as well as how you can contribute, go to www.ocfl.net/veterans. That's where you'll be able to find the links and contact information you need. I hope you'll join us again for Operation Outreach, as we will continue to highlight the many programs and services available to military veterans in Central Florida. Until then, I'm Fred Robinson. Take care, and thanks for watching.